Laura, thank you. The great hockey player Wayne Gretzky once said to be successful, you need to be where the puck is going to be. Well, Blackbaud, out of the low country, technology slash good firm that does good and well, was certainly there in the early days of digital transformation and all things around ESG. We welcome now the CEO of Blackbaud. We're glad to see Mike Gianoni. Mike, welcome to the program and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mike, let's talk about this idea that we've all experienced now, the transformational just transformational moment in our history. So we've got digital transformation, we've got this future of workforce working remotely. We've got a term that you coined, if you don't mind me using, called location agnostic approach. Mike, when we take all of these things together and we hear all the great things about working remotely, the darker part of that is quality control, productivity, the integrity of the worker, the casual nature. How do you square those and how do you manage those in an environment kind of like Blackbaud?
Sure. Yeah, it's been quite interesting the last 20 months. What I believe has happened is we've seen an acceleration of what was going to happen anyway. Especially for information-based companies like Blackbaud. We're a cloud software company. I think this applies to financial services and any business that's information-based. So for us, the pandemic, which began in March of 20, we became quite aggressive, probably in just a couple of months after it started, related to thinking about the fact that we were going to be a remote first company. We had always had about 25% of our employees being not near a Blackbaud office. And so this was not new to us, but the rest of the company moving this direction was quite new. And we did quite well. We had, in the previous 5 or 6 years, had gone through an internal transformation of our IT systems. And so we were able to support this fast move to all of our associates being remote. We also had really started to focus a few months after that, so call it August, September a year ago, in training our 500 or so managers around leading in a remote world. So things like onboarding new associates, running team meetings, building one-on-one relationships, and how to be a leader in a world that's remote, because we knew it was going to be for a long time. For us now, it's permanent. And so we started to focus on sort of the softer side of leadership and development and culture and relationship building over a year ago now, knowing that, running the operations remotely was going to be permanent. Now, from a quality standpoint, we had already put in the metrics in each of the departments around understanding productivity and quality. And so things like our call center, software engineering, sales, we already had those metrics because, again, 25% of our workforce was remote. And so we had each of those departments, partial of the total headcount was remote. And so we were able to build on what we already had put in place, and it's gone quite well. We had not missed a beat operationally in every department in the company.
We'll open this for questions. Laura, question?
Yeah, Mike, to follow up on that, I'm curious how that impacts your acquisition of talent. So people, have you opened the door entirely where people can be located anywhere across the country? And I'm also curious if it goes even beyond the US borders. Does this allow you to recruit some talent overseas?
Sure. Yeah, it's been fantastic for us, Laura. We started this immediately, probably April of 20, and we basically removed the zip code requirement of a job. And it was more about time zones than zip codes. And time zones meaning what team are you on and what time zones are they in? Or if you're a customer-facing associate, you have to be in a relative's common time zone. It's easy in the US with 3 hours, but we're an international company, so we had to be cognizant of time zones. So we started that immediately, and our access to talent and diversity is like we've never had before. It's been significant. So we spent now 20 months hiring in this way. And so we're bringing on folks from think, Silicon Valley engineers that don't want to move, senior operating executives in Toronto, and it's just been fantastic. And so I believe we've sort of laid down a new future of Blackbaud, which is a lot more diversity, which is in our ESG and D&I programs, which has been a lot more successful because of removing the requirement of zip codes, and then access to talent is, like I've never seen before. And this is my 40th year in the tech industry. It's been really fantastic. Even things like our internship program was 95% diverse.
Wow.
Andy, question?
Let me ask you, I know you've said you cannot comment about the 2020 ransomware attack on Blackbaud, but in general, can you talk about what tech companies can learn from these kinds of breaches, from these kinds of attacks, seeing how they seem to be happening more often?
Yeah, sure, happy to. I can comment a little bit on that. I mean, we got some legal stuff going on. I can't talk about that. But in general, we did really well in that because we were one of the few that sort of discovered the issue and shut it down before it impacted our operation. So we never had a negative impact to our operation. We had some negative impact to some data being exposed for customers, but the operation was never impacted. This is, I think, the biggest problem we have related to, foreign influence in the US. And it's a war. And a lot of people don't understand the scale of this. Here's an example. This is a multi-trillion-dollar industry with a T. This is not a couple of folks in a garage, right? If you wanted to spend a couple of $100,000, you could buy software and be a cyber criminal. The software's for sale. It's very sophisticated. It's nation state sponsored. Here's another data point, which I think is interesting. So we have a lot of sophisticated software systems that sort of monitor what's going on, and we can see sort of generally traffic out on the internet. These are not things that impact us, but so we see a flow of bad things, if you will. You can't imagine what the volume is. In a single month, it's almost 100 billion instances monthly. And that's just what we see, because it's all software automated attempted attacks. This is a massive problem, and we can't expect every business from a two-person coffee shop to the multi-trillion-dollar market cap companies we have now to be able to alone protect themselves, because institutions of all sizes are being breached. It's a massive problem.
Let's go to, I wish we could drill a little bit more into that one, Mike, but let's talk about these things called environmental, social, and governance, or something
Sure.
well called ESG, and many companies have ESG. So the operating divisions of companies now include ESG and also, as you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. So they have become permanent fixtures of large and small companies. How do you manage that? Is not a profit or even income center? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But how do you make sure that that is that it's assimilated into the company as it is and as it should be, and not just a box to check?
Yeah, sure. So we at Blackbaud got started early in this. And the ESG trend really came from European companies and European institutional investors were more focused on it. And obviously the last couple of years, you can't listen to a business station and not hear the letters ESG in the US now. And so it's a very big and very important trend. As far as operationalizing it, I believe it has to become part of the regular cadence of the business. So what we've done at Blackbaud, we have a regular cadence of things like monthly operating reviews. We do things like annual operating plans and then 3-year strategic plans for things like software sales and different kind of sort of operating units. We've treated ESG the same way. So we've got a steering committee. We have monthly operating reviews of how we're doing. We've got metrics set up. We've included now and incorporated ESG at our board of directors level in our governance committee. So there's board involvement and board oversight. We're a public company, so we wanted to include it there as well. We have now built, for example, this time of year, there's a 2022 ESG plan and operating plan. And there's also a 3-year plan with metrics based on where we want to take ESG and D&I and Blackbaud. So that's to be a part of the regular part of how you run the company.
Laura?
Yeah, I want to ask a question about the cybersecurity issues you were talking about, because in my head, I spent a lot of time at the Fed thinking about workforce and how we, increase employment. What types of skills are you looking for to have in your employees, and what types of skills are other companies looking for to try to prevent these types of events and to protect the data that you do have? And is it a hard time finding people with the skills that are necessary?
Yeah, so there's a lot of skills required. There's a core set of folks you need that have cybersecurity specific backgrounds that become a centralized group that run sort of a governance function company-wide. But then over in our engineering teams, everyone that's a software engineer needs to be skilled around the product they work on and the requirements for implementing best practices in cyber. And then corporate IT needs to bring in best in class software solutions that we implement from cybersecurity software companies that we deploy inside of our business. And then every employee in Blackbaud goes through training, and they must pass and be certified around cybersecurity related to using their laptops. And so it permeates everything that we do. We also ask the board to participate in that. So it really is every employee. So you have sort of your core centralized experts, and there's a war on talent related to those folks. And then you've got basically every employee plays a role in this, everybody.
Andy, we literally have a minute left. Do you have a quick question?
Sure. You talked about obviously how you're having more people work remotely. What does that mean, what you're going to do with your corporate headquarters you have now, as well as there were expansion plans, of course, pre-pandemic with all of this? What does that do to your real estate functions?
30 seconds. Mike.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're remote first, so we're all remote. We eliminated 50% of our global real estate a year ago. We're going to eliminate the rest. We're keeping our global headquarters, and it's going to be a building that's sort of a coalescing center. So we'll have monthly operating meetings there. We had a group of customers in last week, so we'll use that as sort of a gathering place for the company, and we will not be expanding, beyond that at this point.
Mike, thank you. I'm sorry to rush you at the end there, because that's a deep one and that's a big one, but thanks for joining us, and please come back.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike. Nice to see you, Laura. Thanks, Andy. Until next week, I'm Chris William. Hope your weekend is good. Good night.
Major funding for Carolina Business Review provided by High Point University, Martin Marietta, Colonial Life, the Duke Endowment, Sonoco, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, and by viewers like you. Thank you.